as the Israel-Iran war has entered day 7. In Israel, a hospital in Beersheba in the south of the country has been damaged by a missile strike. Now, Iran says the intended target was a military site near the hospital. Several places in Israel were hit overnight with dozens injured. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Iran would pay the price for the same. In Iran, however, Israeli forces say they have attacked Iran's nuclear sites, including the Arak heavy water reactor and the Natanz uranium enrichment plant. Iran has filed a complaint with the International Atomic Energy Agency over the same. Israeli military officials speaking in media briefing claim that the Israel Defense Forces has destroyed two-thirds of Iran's missile launchers by striking Iran's 200 missile launchers. Meanwhile, let's tell you, Donald Trump has approved plans to attack Iran but hasn't made a final decision on whether to go ahead, even as world leaders have started reacting over the conflict. Let's also tell you that China Xi Jinping called on major powers to cool the Iran conflict during Putin call in thinly veiled message to the United States, that is. As per reports, Russia also warned the US against military intervention in Iran-Israel war. Let's in fact now get you the latest on the rising tension. Sumita joining us with more.
Iran and Israel are continuing to rain strikes on each other as the conflict is entering the seventh day. In fact, Israel attacked Iran's heavy water reactor at night. At least 40 Air Force fighter jets. They attacked dozens of military targets in Tehran. Meanwhile, an Iranian missile has hit Israel's main hospitals, and that's caused a lot of damage. And of course, that's getting a lot of reactions online as well. The country's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Iran will pay a heavy price. In fact, remember, these developments are coming in amidst there is speculation, of course, whether or not the United States will join Israel's bombardment of Iranian nuclear sites. Remember, the President Donald Trump told reporters that I may do it or I may not do it with respect to attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. He also demanded Iran's unconditional surrender, and he warned that it could easily assassinate the supreme leader. And that's fueled fears of American intervention. Meanwhile, reacting to all of those statements that are coming in from the United States administration, Iran's deputy foreign minister stated that if the United States wants to actively intervene to support Israel, Tehran will have to use its tools to defend itself and teach aggressors a lesson. And he also stated that our advice, that is Iran's advice to Washington, is to not get involved if it does not want to stop Israel's aggression. He said that all necessary options are on the table. And, you know, these statements are being traded from all sides, from Israel, from Iran, from the United States. So obviously all eyes are on what the United States is going to do next. What is the United States strategy going to be? Is it going to be a military intervention of some sorts, given the fact that it started moving its military facilities in the Middle East? Is it going to be a possible peace deal? Will it get Iran back on the negotiating table, given the fact that Donald Trump earlier stated that, you know, I told Iran to come back on the the deal-making table. However, they were not really ready to. And of course, before leaving G7, he did state that he was thinking of something bigger than just a ceasefire. So obviously, all eyes are on what the United States is going to do, and that will define whether this war escalates into a bigger regional war, because remember, there are proxies as well, or it gets contained on the back of that peace deal that probably United States is going to be able to broker.
All right, clearly a lot that is unfolding as far as the Israel-Iran conflict is concerned. And Sumita Kharir, of course, happens to keep us ahead with all those developments. Those were the details that we had up until now. But of course, this is a situation that's developing by the minute. And having said that, Sumita Kharir, my colleague, is joining us live, in fact, from the Delhi newsroom. Sumita, given the fact that how we're looking at the situation and, of course, geopolitically as well, with that particular lens, or I should put that into perspective as to what else we're picking up that has happened through the day as well. But these are important visuals that you continue to look at on your screens, given the fact that we do know as far as the latest situation over here. And let's also tell you geopolitically, as we pointed out, that Russia has also warned US against military intervention in the Iran-Israel war. Having said that, we also know at the moment, as this particular war has entered now the 7th day, a hospital in Beersheba in the south of the country in Israel has been damaged by a missile strike. So that's the other significant development that we continue to look at. You're also looking at important visuals on your screens that is unfolding from Tel Aviv in Israel. More importantly, let's put into perspective as to how this is being looked at in terms of statements as well, because we do know at the moment that Donald Trump, who has been vocal at least in the past couple of days, and given the counters as well that global leaders also have their particular viewpoint, he has approved plans to attack Iran, but hasn't made a final decision on whether to go ahead, even as world leaders clearly, like I mentioned, have also started giving their viewpoint. We also do know at this significant point of time that China, Xi Jinping, did call on major powers to cool Iran conflict during the Putin call in thinly veiled message to the US. But clearly, concurrently, a lot that's happening while we look at the extensive damage that has happened, given the fact that either Israel or Iran is actually taking a step back. And given this particular moment, Iran's supreme leader also posted on social media about America's interference. This comes after what Donald Trump had also said. Like I mentioned earlier, Sumita Karir happens to keep us ahead with all the latest developments in this escalating situation. Sumita, we were of course putting things into context for our viewers as to what we picked up. But having said that, given what you also had put in context earlier to now, a lot that has transpired. So if you could just essentially put that right now into perspective and also tell us the latest that we're picking up, Sumita.
Absolutely, Nivedna. A lot has been happening, and of course, escalations have been happening so far as this conflict is concerned. And now we're given to understand from several reports that Chinese President Xi Jinping had spoken to Vladimir Putin, Russian president. And of course, both the leaders condemned the escalation that's been happening between both the sides. And they essentially asked for de-escalation in the matter. Remember, there's been the United States involvement as well, with the US president again and again asking for de-escalation into the matter. And of course, he's also been stating that Iran should have probably approached him earlier, the United States earlier, to have some sort of a peace deal, to have a nuclear treaty, to have a nuclear deal to stop these strikes from the Israeli side. But now we're given to understand that Xi Jinping, that Russia and China both have urged the parties to de-escalate. In fact, I'm given this quote, and let me quote this AFP agency is quoting Xinhua, and it states that parties to the conflict, especially Israel, should cease hostilities as soon as possible to prevent a cyclical escalation and resolutely avoid the spillover of the war. In fact, the Kremlin aide Yuri Yushakov, he told reporters, and I quote once again, both sides adhere to identical approaches and strongly condemn Israel's actions. And of course, both the leaders and countries demarcated and underlined that de-escalation of this conflict should be West Asia's top priority.
Right, Sumita. Thank you for joining us with the latest that we are given to understand. And like you said, this is a developing situation. So we'll keep coming back to you as we trust you to keep us ahead with the same. But for the moment, we leave it at that.